Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1981A, and today's date is September 27th, 2019, and the title of the episode is Trump's Globalist Message Received, Central Bank Globalists Panic and Defend Their System. Now, before we get started, I wanted to talk about protecting yourself. Nothing invokes full-scale panic like Wall Street panicking, but quietly, secretly, U.S. corporate insiders, they're preparing. CNN reported $600 million of stocks has been sold each day in August. This only happened previously before the 2008 crash. Meanwhile, gold is rocketing, and demand is at a 3-year high, according to the World Gold Council. Precious metals, gold, silver, as an IRA or 401k rollover will keep you safe and help you ride out the latest storm. Call Noble Gold right now at 877-646-5347, or you can hit the link below and you'll get the free gold and silver investment guide that has been downloaded over 50,000 times. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we are watching the establishment panic. And what I mean by this, when you look at the UK, you can see we're getting closer and closer to the October 31st date. And the EU, the elite, the establishment in the UK, they are panicking. Here in the United States, when Trump called out the globalists are panicking. We're seeing this all over. Now, we know we're approaching the October date. We're going to be in October very, very soon. And right on schedule, guess what? The EU, the establishment, the mainstream media, they started to fearmonger. They're talking about the National Health Services, saying they don't know if they're going to have enough medicine. They're talking about food and fuel shortages. They don't know if they'll be able to supply that. They're talking about Operation Yellowhammer, that document that just so happened to be leaked out to let everyone know that if this does happen, there's going to be problems in the UK. Of course, this was all done on purpose. They're talking about flight delays. They don't know if the airports will be running. All of this because the UK wants to leave the EU. Remember, Trump has a very good relationship with Boris Johnson. Trump and Boris Johnson have been talking about an interim trade deal, making the UK the hub of trade outside of the EU. They said these same exact things when they were voting for the referendum. And what did we see? We saw none of this happen. Why? Because it's fear-mongering. They're even talking about terrorism and security, that if the UK goes through with this, they're going to see more terrorism. The EU will not be able to provide security to the UK. And they're doing this to scare the people. This is what the central bank system does. It scares the people into doing what they want. And guess what? People are catching on. They're not going to do it. Why? Because the people voted to break away from the EU. But as we get closer and closer to this date, you're going to see the fear-mongering intensify. And who knows what else they'll pull out to say, hey, this can't happen. And we know that Boris Johnson, he has other plans. He might not be putting it out in the mainstream media. He might be holding it close to his chest to make sure that no one understands what he's about to do. But don't worry, they're going to try to block him. Just look what's happening here in the United States. And we can see that Trump and the Patriots, they are now controlling the central bank here in the United States. The Fed, they've already started stimulus. They're pumping billions of dollars into the banking system. Why? Because without the Fed doing this, without the Fed cutting rates, the entire system would crash. If the entire system crashes, guess what? We can't get rid of the central bank because Trump, once the economy deteriorates, will not get reelected. People are going to see this and say, I lost my job. I lost my investments. I lost everything in the stock market. I lost my savings. Why would I elect this individual? This is why Trump and the Patriots needed to take control, and that's exactly what they did. Now, already the Fed has pumped in around $400 billion. And this is about $100 billion a day. Think about what Trump is doing right now. He is driving the central bank to the edge of the cliff. And why is he doing this? Well, remember, they have multiple agendas here. It's not just about cutting rates. It's not just about starting stimulus so he can get reelected in 2020. He needs the global system, and really the Fed is controlling the global system right now. He needs to bring the global system to its knees, and they need to turn it all around and say this was or this is the problem. They're going to create a crisis like we've never seen before. And this time it's not going to be, let's bail out all the corporations. Let's bail out the elite and the establishment. Let's give funds over to whatever banking system across the world. This is about saying, no, this ends here. We've done this already in 2008. Maybe we should find out why this keeps on happening. Was anything solved back in 2008? And that was 11 years ago? We're going on 12 years now. And they're going to push an audit. They need a crisis to do this. And that audit bill that's just sitting in the House, that's going to move. And it's going to move pretty darn quickly because everyone is going to be angry and pissed off. Because we already bailed out everything. We already let the Fed do what they needed to do in 2008. They said it was going to be a lot better. And here we are today. We're back exactly where we started because they didn't make anything better. This central bank system cannot be repaired. Trump knows this. The Patriots know this. This is why they're driving it to the edge of the cliff to make it fall off in the very end. Now, remember when Trump came out and he was at the UN and he talked about the globalists saying that they have no future in this world? Well, the central bankers decided to respond to this, which means they're on a defensive. First, listen to what Trump said.
The future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots. The future belongs to sovereign and independent nations who protect their citizens, respect their neighbors, and honor the differences that make each country special and unique.
Now, when Trump says globalist, yes, he's talking to those low-level globalists that are pushing their own agendas, but mainly he's talking to the central bank. And the central bank understands what he's talking about because they received the message and they decided to respond. Robert Kaplan, president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, said globalization and immigrants are needed for the United States to thrive. He said the following: the narrative in the last several years has been that if your job is being disrupted in Wisconsin or Ohio or anywhere, it is probably due to globalization. Either an immigration may have affected your wages or taken your job, or trade is the reason. But if you think you are actually going to cut the number of immigrants and grow GDP, those things do not quite go together. In an aging population where the domestic-born workforce is shrinking, globalization is an opportunity for the United States. If we get that diagnosis wrong, we're going to make poor policy decisions regarding trade and immigration and grow more slowly. Why do the central banker globalists want immigration? Well, first, they want to blend the countries together. Without identity, it's a lot easier for them to make a one-world government and a one-world currency. But having immigrants come into this country, and they need a lot of them right now, it allows the central bank system, and that's the key, the central bank system, to stay operational. Think about it. The central bank system is continually devaluing their own currency by creating more and more currency. And they are putting countries and people into debt. Once you hit a certain point, people can't take on more debt. Countries cannot take on more debt, which means the people cannot pay that interest on that debt. It's quite impossible. So the central bank, they need to have more and more bodies in the country. Why? They take the low-level jobs. Now they can add debt, and they can add to pay for the debt load of the country. Remember, this is their system. That's the way it's designed in their system. If we remove their system, guess what? We don't have to do what they're saying. Yes, you still have to let people into the country. And again, those people go to the point of entry. But you don't need the masses coming in like they've been doing. Because remember, we wouldn't be borrowing the currency with interest attached, where they need more and more individuals in the country to pay for that debt load, because the people already here won't be able to do it. And he's right about one thing, is yes, part of the population is getting older, but to pay for that interest every single year, it's completely impossible unless you bring in thousands or even millions of people. You wouldn't have to do this if you weren't in a central bank system. And the reason they're responding is because they're defending their system. Remember, if any country decides to drop the private Western Central Bank, create their own currency, and don't work under their economic system, that country is going to do a lot better than a central bank country who's under their system. Because as we know, over time, the central bank system fails, and they need to reset it. This time, the central bank system has gotten so large, it's not just in a country, it's the world. And they're completely exposed, not just in a country, but in every country and around the world. And they're worried about this. Trump is calling them out. They know where he's headed with this, and they're panicking. That's why they're defending their system. It's a failing system, and this is why they need to defend it. They'll defend it until the very end. But guess what? It's still their system. They're the ones who created it. They're the ones who said this is the best system ever. They're the one who says this is the way it's supposed to work. And when it all comes down and it falls apart, people are going to see something very, very different when we transition into the people's economy and not a private Western Central Bank economy. And we will see something that we've never seen before. And the people who are experiencing it are going to say, why haven't we done this from the very beginning? Why did we allow this back in 1913? And then people are going to start to realize who the true enemy is. And that is the private Western Central Bank. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.